Hi, so yeah, I want to share with you all today that the enemy will definitely use your children against you. He will use them as weapons against you if you don't get yourself together, if you don't get them deliverance, if you don't get them right, if you don't get right with God, the enemy will use your children as weapons against you. Okay, that was his plan to do for me, with my children. He was going to use them as weapons if I hadn't gotten myself together. Because the enemy, he didn't want me to have children, but he did want me to have children at the same time, because either way, he could have used the situation. See, the enemy know how to use certain situations against people. And so when I was under the spell, he wanted me to get pregnant so that I could give my babies for a sacrifice. That's what he wanted me to do. That's what the original plan was. He figured that, okay, since she's in such a horrible state, surely she's not going to want to have these babies, or this baby, right? So I chose to keep my children, all three of them, And so since I kept my children, he was like, well, okay, plan B. Plan B, once they get to a certain age, or I can use them against her. And luckily I didn't get a chance to experience a lot of that. I didn't get a chance to experience him actually using my children against me. But what I did experience is that constant worrying about your children when they're okay. Honestly, I had a constant worry, like my soul wasn't at rest. I was always worrying about my children. And I couldn't understand why I kept worrying about them all the time. It was just so, it was excruciating sometimes. It was like it was a certain pain, that would be in my spirit. So that was one weapon, because we're not supposed to be that doggone worried about anything. And I was worried about all three of them, whenever they was born, in a certain way, except for the last one as much, because I had met Miss Williams, so I wasn't too worried about him like that, like I was my other two. But the enemy will use that situation as a means to probably get the children to misbehave a lot, get them to be very disruptive, probably get them to where they won't even mind you. Like I said, I didn't experience that a lot, because I was mostly moving around, mostly gone. And sometimes I couldn't even be around my children like that because of the state of mind I was in. So I'm very blessed to have had people to watch after my children while I was like that, y'all. And in a lot of cases, but he would have used them to possibly get me arrested. Like the enemy will use your children to get you arrested, possibly get them to get, when they get to a certain age, they'll probably be calling the police on you for nothing. Just weird stuff. He would have used them to um, just bring all types of distractions, all types of worry. Not the other worry, but the worry of, like, they getting in trouble all the time and stuff like that. He would use them as weapons to be just disrupting my life, like in a great way. But luckily, by the time I got to a certain point, my children was a certain age. They wasn't even really old enough to do some of that stuff that the enemy was planning on getting them to do. And it just it'd have been mostly because of the energy. That stuff would have been rubbing off on my children. What was on me would have been just rubbing off on my children. The enemy would have used my children as bait. He would have probably did something to get them to do something weird, to where CPS will be involved, something crazy like that. These are just examples that I'm giving you all. It would have been something. It would have been something, where they'd have probably been tearing the house up. But a lot of people think just because you got children that you just walking around like you pulling your hair out or something. No, when you get right, and if you got decent children, see me, the devil couldn't have used me against my mom and dad, because I was just a sweet young lady. But it could have definitely been something that would have been used eventually against my parents. But I was just really sweet, because just because of me or whatever, my mindset. And then I was raised by a couple of sweet grandparents. And I was actually, like I said, I was raised pretty good. So everybody think, well, not everybody, but a lot of people think that just because you have children that you going through it or something, and that ain't always the case. Yeah, a person can go through it or whatever, but some stuff just has to be broken off that bloodline. Where there is peace in the children, there's peace in the home, there's peace within the family, the peace within the bloodline. You want peace to run through your bloodline. That's what you want. And so God provides that peace and that stability. It's even, I believe, if you are in a one-parent household, like, God can fix all of that. God will fix and renew all of that stuff for you. But I mean, it's just a means of us putting in the work to get this stuff removed, getting it done. That way we can continue to spread the good stuff throughout the bloodline, the good things that God has for us throughout our bloodlines. But yes, and if I would have got abortions, that would have been a means to have me. I know that would have pulled me deeper into what I was already in. That stuff would have tormented me and tormented me and tormented me. If I would have, the torment would have been worse if I would have gotten rid of my children. It would have been much. I know it would have been much worse. Like, I could feel it. By me going ahead and having my babies, that kind of shook up the enemy too, but he still had a plan B. He still had another plan for that. But luckily, I got rid of a lot of that stuff before a lot of it could come to pass. But my children, they are pretty behaved or whatever. It's some things that they need to work on for sure. They're human. They're human. Like, I don't have no really big issues with them at all. It's not no talking back. It ain't no disrespect. It ain't no none of that. You know, my children, they have their little things, just like anybody, just like probably I do. You know, I'm not perfect, but it's not nowhere near what the enemy was planning on doing and what he was gonna do with my children versus how things are now. He would have destroyed that, but by that being on me, it would have destroyed my children's lives too. So they would have, not only would they have been weapons, but a lot of their lives would have been hindered in some of the worst ways, all because of what was going on with me. You know, all because of what was going on with me. So I had to break that stuff off. And when you think about the fact that God gave me children in the midst of all of that, it was for a reason. All of it was for a reason, you know. So a lot of it was meant to come through me so that I could, God knew I was going to break it off, even if I wasn't absolutely sure. So we got to trust God's plan and make sure we're getting our children deliverance and make sure they stay on the right path as much as possible, because once they get grown, they can't say we didn't tell them or we didn't try to show them the right way to go and things like that. They can't say we never told them, you know, because I've definitely told all of mine, and I'm gonna keep telling them so that since they getting older, as they grow up, they can get a refresher in their head about which way is the right way instead of going the way that leads to destruction. The enemy do think about, okay, well, what can I do in this generation here? I done took down this generation. Some of this stuff that's in our bloodlines have been there for hundreds of thousands of years, or however long. It's been there for a long time, for a very, very, very long time. And so sometimes the enemy get comfortable. He like, I've been taking down every family member in this bloodline ever since BC AD. So once I got to this person, hold on, they could possibly break this stuff. And once they see that you breaking it, oh my goodness, you know they're gonna come for you. They're gonna come for you. They're gonna come for you because they're gonna be mad. They're gonna be highly upset. How dare you break this off? I've been working on this for decades. So yeah, I was one, the enemy like, man, I was gonna use your children against you. You done broke it off. And yeah, that's how it be, y'all. I just want to kind of, say that. I know I had to put a whole bunch of edits up in here because I got disrupted like twice. The video ain't even 10 minutes long, and I got disrupted twice while I was trying to put this out. So yeah, all right, y'all. Love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye.